I see that we're live on YouTube.
Yep,
so
but
I
I'm not
think we
recording yet, so just hold
got
on.
it.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay, you can go.
Okay. So this is the January 14th meeting of the West Fargo Public Library Board of Directors, and I will call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the order of agenda. Before we get a motion to approve that, Carissa, I would like to take off or move the approval of the financial reports from the consent agenda. It looks like it's item 3.2 to item number 1 underneath the regular agenda. Can I get verbal confirmation, Carissa, that that's?
Yep.
Okay, so I did research on that, and we do not need a motion to move an item from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. Any board member for future reference can move any items from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. We just need to do so before we approve the order of the agenda. Are there any other changes to the order of the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the new order of the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Second.
All those in favor of the order of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passed. Moving on to the consent agenda, which now contains the approval of the minutes from December 10th, 2020, and the approve actions from Mobile Library Task Force January meeting documents. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Okay, Mandy approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda approved. So Carissa and the rest of the board, the reason I asked to move the approval of the financial reports from the consent agenda to the regular agenda is I just want to make sure we have clarity for the public who may look at this. When I looked at the financial reports, as you know, they were year to date through the end of 2020. And as such, it appears when you look at it that we have overspent highly in certain line items, and that has all been approved. But I just would like Carissa to review that so that there's clarity for the public. Carissa?
Yeah, of course. So the main line that looks the most overspent with the most sizable amount at the June 2020, or excuse me, that line is furniture and equipment. So to recap, why that line is overspent. At the June 2020 meeting, the library board approved my request to repurpose up to $25,000 of funds that I knew would be unspent in our book and audio visual lines, and instead use it for furniture like work tables and desks and shelving that was needed for work areas in the library, and that I knew we would end up requesting in the 2021 budget cycle or subsequent years. So because I knew that we were going to have those unspent funds because of this massive interruption in our operations this year due to COVID, rather than going back to the public with requests for needed items like that in subsequent years, I thought it would be better to take care of it with funds that were already allocated to us in 2020. So that is what that is, and that's probably that's the main line that has a substantial amount that is overspent, and that is why. So.
Okay, thank you for addressing that. So I just wanted to be clear, this is all stuff that the board approved. There were some other items that you may note were higher or lower, but this was stuff that we all discussed throughout the year. I just wanted to make sure that we were all reminded at the end of last fiscal year into this meeting. Does
Since-
anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Larry.
Since this has been taken off the consent agenda, do we need a motion to approve the financial report?
We will need a motion to approve the financial report.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Was that Jody?
Mhm.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the December library financials, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Carissa, let's move on to review and provide input on 2021 library projects and initiatives.
Sounds good. Let me know when you can see my slide.
We can see it.
Awesome. Well, good evening, board members. I thought it would be fitting to kick off 2021 by making you aware of and getting your input on some of the projects and initiatives that we're going to work on in 2021 or that we anticipate working on in 2021. And the preview document that I provided in your packet is a draft, and I think things are undoubtedly going to change this year, especially as we finalize our public input project and our strategic plan. But that said, my philosophy is that the stuff that you write down gets done and the stuff that you measure gets done. So we're going to kick off 2021 with direction and a good handle on what we're aiming for. So quick overview of the things we'll talk about tonight. I'm going to give you, pull out some of the projects that were listed on your preview document and just highlight and expand upon a few of those, and do the same things with some of the things listed under organizational competencies and talk about how we're setting goals that feed into those larger initiatives. So I'm just going to give you some highlights. I won't talk about every single one that was on the document, but just highlight and expand on a few of them. And then I'll end by just talking a bit about how this ties into our funding for 2021 and what was approved in our budget, and then also how it ties into some citywide initiatives. And then we'll have time for feedback and questions. So here's some of the larger projects that we anticipate tackling in 2021, and I'm excited to talk about them tonight. And that, like I said, I won't talk about all of them, but I'm going to expand on a few of them. And one of them that you're all very well aware of already is the Little Red Reading Bus. So we are developing this outreach service, and it is a major step in making partnership and outreach at the core of what we do at the WFPL. And so this summer, we are going to bring books and programs and librarians directly to kids in West Fargo, kids and families in West Fargo, and help them become confident learners when they re-enter school and avoid summer learning loss and have equitable access to books. So with the help of the Mobile Library Task Force, we're going to tie the work that we do as the summer reading program into the work of the Little Red Reading Bus. And we're really looking at them as one and the same as we go forward in the summertime. So basically what we're doing is we are going to bring the summer reading program out on the road. Planning for staffing is another major project that we are going to work on in 2021. And if you remember a year ago, actually, exactly a year ago, I presented a draft 10-year staffing plan to you. And this spring, as we head into the 2022 budget cycle, I'm going to revise that plan to reflect where we are now a year later. And I'd recommend that our overall strategy remain pretty close to the same as what I talked about last year. So based on our usage patterns, we need to consider adding over the years full-time librarians who can do the work of independently planning and executing programs and provide help with advanced questions from the public, both in our building, in our brick and mortar location, and offsite as we do more of that outreach work. Another priority area that we do need to consider is the addition of a deputy director in the coming years. And at a kind of a basic level, we do need a succession plan and a continuity of operations plan. And we won't be able to have either of those effectively over time without that position. in my view. And at a bigger picture level, I think kind of what I have observed in the last year of being in this position is that our community has grown. The goals of the library board and other stakeholders, the goals that they have for the library have changed over time, and we're operating at a larger scale now to the point where we've departmentalized. So that means that my position is more focused now on long-term planning and strategy and capital planning and external advocacy than it probably was in the past. And a deputy director is going to be needed to work with the staff and managers to do things like ensure continuous implementation of our strategic plans and really take a library-wide view of ensuring that our staff, everyone is trained in a uniform fashion and working as a team. So that's a need that I do see coming down the line as well. So we want to talk about that more in the future. So again, I'm going to work on revising our plan with the service managers this winter and spring to map out more specifically this year how each department in the library could grow. And just to give a little bit of extra context on this too, we're currently at 12 full-time staffers and 12 part-time staffers, which equates to about 15 FTE. Libraries in our regional cohort serving a population of 35,000 support an FTE of 22 on average. So we're doing a lot with the FTE that we have and providing a really good value to the public. But the understaffing issue that we have is one of the most important issues that the library board and myself will need to work on addressing in the coming years. Other awesome project that I want to talk about tonight is we are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. The WFPL is 50 years old. And so staff have been working on a number of outreach activities related to our anniversary, and we're going to be working on rolling them out in 2021. And I'm really excited about it because we're going to be doing things like looking for testimonials from people with connections to the library over the years and from any member of the public who's excited to share how the library has impacted their life. So staff have been doing a great job of looking for ways to make the celebration really about community engagement. So we're excited about that project too. So those are some of the big projects that we have coming up in 2021. And now I just want to talk about some of the key competency areas that we have been working on setting some goals and initiatives around for 2021. So I've been working with the library service managers to set goals that feed into these areas that we want to strengthen. If we want to provide awesome and proactive and community-based services that we know we do, then we have to ask ourselves, you know, as we go through and move along here, okay, what do we need to work on so that we can do that to the best of our ability? So with the list that I provided to you, it's not to say that after 2021, we're going to be perfect in these areas or stop working on them after 2021, but it's just to say, here's what our goals are feeding into and what we're working on to strengthen. So some of these we identified as a result of going through and starting our community input project with Folkways and by working internally to analyze our strengths and weaknesses as an organization. So one that I want to highlight is external partnerships, and you all will be very familiar with my talking points here because you've seen now a lot of the feedback that we've gotten so far in our work with Folkways. So as a result of that work and looking at information on who's using our services and who isn't and who we're targeting in our programs and who we aren't, but who we could be, we have devised some groups, new user target groups. And we set goals this year, myself and some of the other service managers, to work on building relationships with individuals and organizations in the community that represent those various groups. So 2 examples of that are older youth and teens and new Americans. So reaching out to organizations who are connected to those groups, setting up meetings with them, attending their events, etc. We need to do that initial connection building work to reach these new user groups. Part of this also ties into relationship building that we have started already doing with our Friends of the Library group and our Mobile Library Task Force group. Those are both groups that have relationships who can help us build more strategic partnerships with other local organizations. Next up, service development. So in 2020, we've worked on our strategic plan, and as the programming team in particular, they have been working on sharpening their skills with conducting user surveys for a lot of the programs that we did this year. And we haven't, that was kind of us, a first big push that we had into doing that in a unified effort. And through that work, I kind of realized that we need a library-wide unified approach to the way that we develop new services and programs and evaluate the existing ones. So one of the things that we're going to do in every department is intentionally implement this model. And I did not create this process. This is a standard process for ensuring that programs and services align with community outcomes in the public library field. So I cannot take credit for this. But I want to put it into context for you so you know kind of how this plays out and the benefit that it has. So to give you an example, we're going to use this model that you're looking at as we develop the service of the Little Red Reading Bus and reinvent the summer reading program this year. So before we can really plan specific programs and route locations for the summer, we need to know first a little bit more about what kids and parents are looking for in the summer months. And we should be doing that kind of outreach on an ongoing basis to get continual feedback. So the programming team and outreach teams are going to meet with 2 members of the mobile library task force and several other community partners or organizations that they will work to identify. And they're going to have a conversation with them and get their insights into the community and learn about the type of work that their organization does, and then tell them about the summer reading program and the bus and get their feedback so we can have that conversation and they can learn more about partners in the community. And then from there, we'll take what we learn from that and work with the task force to set outcomes for the bus service this summer. And the programming team will develop the programming lineup and determine the best strategy to measure how effective our overall program was. And then the last step of it is we're going to share that back out to the community and every stakeholder that we can think of in West Fargo. Once we have developed that set of programs, evaluated them, and have feedback and results from them, we'll share it out. So the benefits of us making this effort to implement this approach across the library is that it's a strategy to communicate the impact of it's a strategy to communicate the impact that the library has on people's lives. It should be easy for people to see and understand what we do. So this method, following this every time, really gets us out there reporting on the results of the work that we do. So consistency in our methods like this will help with that. And it also ensures continuously that we're having conversations with people in the community when we develop new services and programs. So we know for sure that what we're developing and working on is based on people's needs and desires. And doing that on a continual basis is really important because we don't just want to do that at the point where we're doing our strategic plan, because there's usually a number of years that pass between that planning process and we need to get ongoing feedback. So this is a way that we can do that. And it also, of course, tells us how effective our services are and allows us to make those program improvements and design new programs as we go along. And it's a clear method for all staff to follow. Last initiative that I will end on highlighting is staff development. For our 2021 budget, I requested additional funding for professional memberships, trainings, and conference attendance for staff. So we're rolling those out, and the managers and others are identifying trainings and conferences that tie into library-wide goals or goals in their departments, et cetera, et cetera. And as we grow our outreach and develop new programs and services, that staff development is absolutely going to be key so that everybody has those growth opportunities going forward. And I think this really makes everything else that I've talked about tonight possible. In addition to that, one of my goals is to work in consultation with the supervisors to revamp our onboarding process with an eye towards not just getting people started, but retaining them through mentorship and surveying strengths and tying their work to library-wide goals and projects. And finally, I just want to end by tying all of this together in relation to what our 2021 budget is supporting and citywide initiatives. When I presented our draft budget to you in June, I talked about the request supporting two main items: reducing barriers to using the library and closer partnerships with organizations like the school district so we can support success of all youth, including older youth. The addition of a children's librarian who I think is here. Is she here? Okay, she's not on my screen, but she's here. Yay. With the addition of a children's librarian who, that is a huge part of how we're able to reach farther with what we're doing this year. The addition of that position. Partnerships and bringing youth services out into the community and allowing our youth services manager to turn her attention to supporting older youth. A lot of it ties back to increasing our capacity with that staffing ad. And finally, the Commission President Dardis has talked about and identified creating more community engagement and outreach opportunities as a key priority for the city going forward. So our community input project is of course part of that, but you can also see how outreach is really at the core of where we're headed and what we're going to do in 2021. So we fit right into that and support that broader goal too. That is where I will end. So I hope that this gives the library board some more insight into what we do and what we have coming up in 2021. So now I'll open up to all of you for questions and feedback. I appreciate your listening.
Yeah, I would challenge all of us to try to come up with ways to use the 50th anniversary this summer to really maximize exposure to the library, to give us some forward momentum for a possible, new facility, and really to take advantage of this situation to let the community know. I didn't realize that we're doing more with less. The community should be aware of that we're doing more with less, that we're maximizing their resources, and hopefully, maybe Melissa Richard can get involved, but it's a good opportunity to get some momentum to drive us forward, with goodwill in the community.
I'm hip to that. I would also like to ask for some JPEG files for the 50th anniversary logo and other such things that I can put on my social media pages.
Yes, that is part of the plan. So you will get plenty of material.
Carissa, how are you deciding what staff development opportunities people get to take advantage of? And then when they come back with all this exciting new material, do you have a way to help the participants share that material with the rest of the staff?
Yes. So your first question is, how are they deciding? So what we are doing is first and foremost, it's a dialogue between me and other people who are identifying training opportunities. I'm not just picking them for people. We are talking about these broader goals and initiatives, and then they are thinking about that and identifying what their own needs are so that they can better support that work, and then identifying training. So we're doing it together, and really based on some of what you're looking at tonight with the goals and projects and initiatives. And then your second question about how are staff sharing that? So one way that we do that is oftentimes our supervisors will do a training that they then can take and build off of that to provide their own training back to their staff. We see that a lot in our patron services team. Supervisors will go out and learn more about a specific topic, and then work on developing some version of a training then for their own staff. So we do a lot of that. We also often just share at our meetings and through our internal communications tools. You know, when somebody attends a conference, we share all the info that we get from it with each other too. So yeah.
Are there any other questions for Carissa? Okay,
I guess
let's
this
move.
is
Go
sorry.
ahead, Natty.
I guess I was just wondering if there was discussion as far as plans or ideas and bringing in people who use the library less. You know, if there's any plans as far as creating bigger draws to get those people into the library, especially thinking ahead to creating more support for a new building in the future.
Yeah, yep. And I think that we are still firming up our strategy for that. And I say that because I think some of the learning that we still need to do needs to come from completing the final part of our community input project. But as you know, we have identified some areas where we know we aren't bringing in as many people in certain groups or serving them as intentionally as we want to. So what we have done is, like I said, we've identified some of those groups. And so we're going to build some strategies to at least make connections with them. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the first step is actually getting involved in the various communities and having our staff interface with them. Sometimes it's not all just about providing a new service even that's specifically targeted to them. Our work is about a lot of relationship building. So I can't emphasize that enough because that is a big part of it. But also then I think we've identified some of them. I think we will learn more as we finish our strategic plan. And then what we'll do is we'll build targeted relationship building strategies or programs that are meant to draw them in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other further questions or comments? I think all of the ideas and comments shared today are exceptional, and I'm happy that we have an active and involved board. Carissa, let's move on to the director's report.
Sounds good. Can everybody still hear me okay? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Yes.
You might not want to look at that for the entirety of the meeting.
Or you might get more questions than you really want.
That's okay. So the library will reopen to walk-in traffic on Tuesday, January 19th. As a reminder, we are closed on Monday, January 18th for our all-staff training day. So just yay. We can't wait to see people back in the library and reconnect with the community again. We have a new staff member who is joining us tonight that I wanted to introduce to the library board. Sarah Davis is with us. She is our new children's services librarian working in our youth services department. She started on December 14th, and she comes to us from Pelican Rapids Library, which is the Viking library system in Minnesota, right, Sarah? Okay, good.
Yes.
And she's somebody who right away I could tell is just on fire about partnering with people in the community and being out in the community. And so we're just so excited that she's here. And Sarah, if you want to say anything, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say that so far, so good. I really like the West Fargo Public Library. And I'm excited about all the new things that we're going forward with. It's such an awesome time to be joining the staff and really getting involved in West Fargo and getting my feet wet in the community as well. So yay, us.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
My next item is a quick update on our work with Folkways. The last project milestone that we have marked with them is the programming team met with them to do an audit of our event lineup. So they looked at our entire set of events in 2020, and then they met with the programming team to talk to them and get their perspective. And then also they're going to work on making some recommendations for improving the experience at our event, or how we're hosting them and marketing them and things like that. So they completed that last week. And then we are still in the process of working on getting feedback from non-users and conducting non-user interviews. So Commissioner George, that element of the project is a big part of where we learn more from the audiences that we're not reaching. So I think that will really help us in getting a more targeted approach to do what you're talking about. Next item is Giving Hearts Day. The Little Red Reading Bus has participated in a community fundraiser called Giving Hearts Day in past years. And this year, the Friends of the Library are going to back the Little Red Reading Bus's participation. And we've asked the Mobile Library Task Force to help us work on the fundraising campaign as well. So if you don't know, Giving Hearts Day is a 24-hour community-wide donation event to raise funds for local charities of all kinds. And this year, the date that it is taking place is February 11th, 2021. Our campaign, which you will get JPEGs and lots of other info about as well. Our campaign is going to be called Ready to Read. And a gift to the campaign for the Little Red Reading Bus would support a couple of things. First, in the past, when the bus was out in the community, we've popped up with blankets and books and crates and things like that. And in summer 2021, we'd really love to make visiting the Little Red Reading Bus even more special for kids by bringing really bringing that library experience out to them by popping up with outdoor reading, seating and reading nooks, browsing shelves, and play equipment. So enhancing that experience of being out on the bus. A second thing that the gift would support is that we hope to start a new program supporting young readers in the community. The program is also going to be called Ready to Read, and it will put books directly in the hands of kids under 5 in West Fargo and help prepare them for kindergarten. So part of this initiative will be providing a Ready to Read toolkit to every child age 0 to 5 who signs up for a library card. And the toolkit would include things like a free book and a special library card and tips for parents and activities for kids. So this would be one part of the total Ready to Read program aimed at setting kids up for success leading into kindergarten. And with this project, we really hope that we can think bigger with it, bigger than just having it be available at the library. We really want to bring it out to preschools and to school registration events and on the Little Red Reading Bus. And so to do that kind of community-wide impact, we're going to need to raise additional dollars. So we are still looking for early match gifts. So if you know of any local businesses or organizations that you think might be willing to be a match donor, please email me. That would be tremendous. We'll also, like I said, be reaching out to all of you and other stakeholders after next week to provide you with some tools so that you can help be a social media ambassador with us leading up to Giving Hearts Day. So we'll be sending out more information for sure. Our last item before I turn it over to Kirsten for a programming update is just a quick word on other work we're doing with the Little Red Reading Bus. In addition to Giving Hearts Day, we're very hard at work on many aspects of getting our first year of service with the bus up and running. And in this year in particular, there are a lot of elements involved in it, from cataloging the existing Little Red Reading Bus collection to fundraising to building relationships with our partners and the task force. So many of our staff members are working on various aspects of that, and it kind of works out because we're kind of at a natural pause point with some of our programs coming off of the holidays. So we're hard at work at many aspects of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten now.
Wait, I have a question before we turn it over.
I just had a question.
Steve, go ahead.
You'll remember yours?
I wrote it down.
I just don't want you to forget your question. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Then I better go. Mine isn't wrote down. First of all, how active have we been in giving Hearts Day as a library in the past? And the second part to that question, maybe John Shockley can give advice. Are we allowed, so it sounds like we're going to get involved with the Little Red Reading Bus. Has the library gone?
I can probably answer the first question, at least. So in the past, the Friends of the Library have not participated in Giving Hearts Day before. But this year they are. And so they're the 501c3 backing the Little Red Reading Bus. So when you go to donate on the day, or a person who would want to donate, you'd find us by searching for the Little Red Reading Bus. But the 501c3 backing the campaign is the Friends of the Library.
And in general, a political subdivision cannot give a donation to a private entity. There are some limited exceptions under North Dakota law. I could certainly work with Carissa and look at that if that's something the board would want to, but the general rule is you can't give a donation out as a city or a library.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I hope
didn't
the
even
public will contribute to.
John, I didn't even know you were here, so surprise. My question is in regards to the match. Carissa, can you let us know maybe how many match dollars you either have left or how much overall you have to raise? And do those match dollars, are they written to the Friends of the Library then as part of the program?
Yep. So the match funding would be written to the Friends of the Library. Just a little bit of background on Giving Hearts Day. Every charity that participates just needs to raise $3,000 in match funds to participate. So we are still looking for match donors. And what that means is that the donors who provide match funding are providing an early sponsorship, and then with the idea being then people who actually donate on Giving Hearts Day, those organizations or businesses that provided the match funding, the donors who give on the day are matched by those businesses. So it's an incentive it's a way to get backing and show that you have backing to increase donations, basically is what it is. Did I answer the question?
You did, but I have a
Okay.
follow-up question. You keep saying businesses, can individuals donate or for
Yes.
the previous, they can, okay.
Yep, they can. Sorry. I'm glad you pointed that out. It doesn't have to be a business. It doesn't have to be an organization. It can be a person.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any questions for Carissa before she passes it
If
over?
anybody out there in the public. Yeah, I was just going to say, if anybody in the public is watching this, is an interest in donating.
I think
Great point.
you're breaking up a little bit, but I think you were putting a plug in for anybody that would want to donate. At least I think that's what you were saying. So yes, and if you want to, like I said, the early match donations and the donations that people could make on the day of would be made to the Friends of the Library, and there's more information on our website, westfargolibrary.org too.
And if anybody were to have any questions, they could reach out to you and you'd be happy to redirect them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on.
You're up.
Larry, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, I didn't hear Larry. I think I'm having connection issues. So Jody, you're on deck.
No, Larry is just talking to himself and
Okay. Sorry.
reacting to things. Or maybe I'm not.
So it's my turn. I'm ready. It's me
Really
time.
your turn. Yes.
It's time? Okay. I was going to say earlier, it was funny that you brought up all of the fun stuff with the Little Red Reading Bus that we're doing pre-work, is that Sarah was doing some of that work today, actually. And getting books to the library to start cataloging. So witnessed it firsthand. So I will just jump in with a programming update where I was going to give you a little bit of an overview on what we have done since the holidays. Like Carissa said earlier in our update as well, we are in a constant state of evolution when it comes to evaluating our programs, and we'll be building a lot on that in 2021. And it was really that foundation of 2020 that sort of set us up to be successful as we get forward into 2021. I won't dive a lot into that, but you'll see some of the results of that, those beginning steps in my coming slides. Yeah, so as well as in your board packet, I do have there, I'll sort of mimic some of the things that you already have stats for, but I have some comments and anecdotes that come from our programs in December and January. So I am breaking so many PowerPoint rules with this, and I kind of hate myself for it, but there was a lot of great words that I also wanted you guys to be able to see and the public to see as well. And so here's just a quick overview of a couple of the programs that we held in December. And part of the virtual story times, Lauren administered an early literacy survey for the youth storytime series, and one response.
Kristen, I want to interrupt for a second. I'm getting some feedback. So if everybody who is not Kirsten, including myself, could mute ourselves, that would be great.
All right, ready, set, go again. But I did want to highlight one of the great experiences that a family had with one of the virtual story times. And for those of you with small children, you likely know that it's not an easy task to keep them entertained and engaged through a virtual manner, as well as them being a toddler. You know, things are exciting and distracting, but this parent really sung high praise of that virtual story time, and I wanted you guys to be able to see that as well. We also gave away some family STEM kits. It was a kit-only package where people could sign up and come get a full kit of activities and things for them to take home. Lauren held a winter trivia for families. She also said that she got someone that was by themselves and older, that wasn't necessarily fall in that family demographic, but wanted to participate anyway, and we happily let them participate as well. From the adult perspective, we held two different webinar virtual programs. Actually, I should just say all of these are virtual. I had Jackie Marler, who is a WFPL staff. She hosted the Intro to Family History, which is a program we traditionally hold in person in previous years, and it's like our basics to genealogy and family history. And we had a handful of people attend that, and a lot of their feedback really praised Jackie's results, but also they were just continuing to offer these Zoom classes and having ways for people to sort of continue learning and go beyond their house, because I feel like we're all kind of probably getting tired of just being at our house these days. I also had a DNA kits and family history, which sort of, both of those, I would say, genealogy in itself is a little bit of a niche topic, but sort of balancing that niche topic with something that's pretty mainstream of those DNA kits. It's something that families often do around the holidays and then talk about it with each other once they get their results back of, I didn't know I had a little bit of Italian history in my family, and those sorts of things. And so we had a guest speaker, Suze Bates, out of, I want to say Illinois or Indiana, and I'm blanking where she's from, but she's a career genealogist. That's what she does. She does these different types of presentations to libraries and local historical societies and such as that. She has a whole litany of things, but the DNA one kind of stuck out to us because it's something that people that have participated in our genealogy program in the past have asked Jackie a lot about, and it's something that was an interest of our patrons already. So we had about 8 or 9 people show up to that were very engaged in the program, asked a lot of questions throughout, but they're able to get some of those answers to questions that they had from those DNA kits that they used. We are still hosting our book clubs. We have 3 in-person book clubs traditionally. 2 of them have been hosted over Zoom the last couple of months. Other programming here I want to highlight is our Twisted Stitchers group. They are a long time recurring program at WFPL, like several years running at WFPL. And they named themselves the Twisted Stitchers. That is their unique name. They are very proud of it. But their group meets weekly every Tuesday for an hour and a half. And previously when they're in library, but now have been meeting via Zoom to socialize and just really share their crocheting and knitting projects with each other. And this has been probably the most consistently attended virtual program that we've had since our closure since March. And they started meeting in August, so there's a time there where they weren't meeting and when we were closed and that, but has averaged about 7 to 9 attendees each week. And also have had interest for 3 additional new people to start joining us since October. So it's one program that I would say has been incredibly successful and hasn't really missed a step when going from in-person to virtual, which can't say that for all of the programs, but that's definitely one that's been proven to be successful over the last couple months. And then for January, we're just getting started, although we're at like the midway point tomorrow, which kind of blows my mind. One that I will highlight that did occur so far, and I'll just give you a little preview about the ones that are coming up, is that we held a virtual cocktail class with Max Parker, who has previously worked at Mezzaluna, Teddy's, Toasted Frog, and now is a bar manager in the area. But this was a bit of an experiment of a program. We were hoping to reach a younger demographic with this type of program, as well as had a shorter time length to see if that would entice those busier, younger people that aren't sure whether they would fit this into their schedule. And resoundingly, people wanted it to be longer and they wanted to dive further in depth. Max gave a lot of history to each of the different classic cocktails that he featured, as well as gave a lot of book recommendations for cocktail making titles and such. A few things we have coming up this month. We have Danielle Teagan, who wrote The Hidden History of Fargo, as well as the Fargo Fire of 1893. She previously spoke on a panel that we did called The Business of Books on the variety of ways you've become a published author. And so her most recent one, The Fargo Fire of 1893, was published in October of 2020. So we thought we'd welcome her back so she could feature that title to our community as well. And we also have some adult trivia nights coming up, also hoping to reach some of those younger ages with some pop culture topics. Our book clubs will continue, Twisted Stitchers will continue. And the last thing I will call out here is the Mitten Tree, which during the holiday season, we have a donation drive for new or like new hats, mittens, and scarves, which are then donated back into the West Fargo School Districts for kids in need of new winter gear. And this year we blew away our previous year's number of donated items and received about 320 items. That's a preliminary number. We'll get a final number shortly. Lauren hasn't had a chance to count all of them, but has said that we have had a lot of donated items. And I must also say the Twisted Stitchers group was very excited that we were still doing this despite the pandemic, because they've had a lot of time to make many items that they would want to donate this year. Lastly here, I'll highlight BEANSTACK, which we talked a lot about last summer for summer reading program. This is our reading log platform where our readers can log the number of pages, minutes, books that they've read, as well as complete activities a part of challenges. And you, likely remember this from summer reading program, but I also wanted to highlight that we aren't using this only for summer reading program, but using it year round and for different types of challenges and different ways to engage our community in reading and activities to get out and about. So I'll just give a quick overview of just the platform itself in 2020. So we launched it at the end of May, and have over 658 active readers. So I narrowed this by just the 2020 timeframe. And so that many people have logged something in BEANSTACK, and collectively they've read over 16,000 hours and completed over 3,000 activities. And that is great. I'm very excited about it. It's also a great base as we go into the next year of 2021, as we have our 50th anniversary challenge that has 25 reading activities and then 25 other learning activities, whether that's doing a STEM activity or art or other things. We'll have other programming opportunities a part of that challenge as well. And then this last program here is the Snow Plays Like a Good Book Challenge. Lauren has been working with a library media specialist at the Heritage Middle School and has launched another challenge. They had previously done a back to school one, but they're doing a winter reading challenge. They'll run through March 5th, and the challenge encourages students to read about 3.5 hours a week and help them expand their reading abilities by completing activities like reading a book by an author they've never read. And so that's just a quick snapshot of December, January, and then a little bit about BEANSTACK and the tools that we're using to push our programs out into the community. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you. That was great information.
My pleasure.
Is there any, well, Chris, are we done with the director's report?
We are.
Is there any other business? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? You can unmute yourselves.
I'll move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, Larry made a motion, Steve second. Is there any discussion?
There are dogs and cats
Well, there's kids clomping around here too.
and clumping kids. I think it's time we adjourn.
Yes. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed, meeting adjourned. Thank you for your patience tonight and for waiting for me to get set up so I didn't have to do it in the car.
No worries.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
you.
Bye.